Hello, everyone. Once more, we are here to talk about what's changing in terms of traveling. We know many of you are concerned about this new variant of COVID. While we are here today and inviting once more Ashini Sontalia to talk about what's happening with this new variant, the Delta, how it's affecting, or if it's affecting somehow the travel industry. So, good afternoon, Ash. How are you today?
Yes, good. Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be again here to share some insights and share some news about the current situation.
Perfect. So, Ash, let's start with the direct question, and is will the Omicron variant affect the travel between Australia and India?
So at the moment, as per what I can see from Australian government, there has been no flight bans. The only thing that has changed in the last week is that there is a 72 hours home quarantine being introduced in Melbourne and Sydney, which is, I think, quite minimal for anybody even coming back from an international trip. A couple of days of jet lag is there, so I think just 2-3 days spending at home, 3 days, is quite nominal. And there has been no further advice that has come from the Australian government in the last 10 days regarding anything more severe, severe decision being taken. In fact, what I have heard, and maybe we can play the Prime Minister's video, which says that he doesn't want to go back to any more severe lockdowns and any more severe quarantine situation that was there in Australia before. So I believe if they had to do this, they would have by now. And it seems that also another news that's coming from everywhere is that, yes, it's definitely a new variant, but at the same time, it is not very fatal as such. It seems like it's not a big concern in terms of causing a serious illness or death to most people. That's what we are hearing from various news circles.
Yeah.
And finally, also the current changes of people who can come to Australia. The Australian citizens and PR are allowed to come, and their parents are allowed to come. The only people who were allowed to come from 1st December were the students and temporary residents, and now that has been postponed till 15th. But there is no further advice whether that will be postponed more. I personally feel that it will not be, and I believe that everybody will be allowed to travel after that.
Okay. So, as one of the questions that I have is, does Australia have changed at all rules to travel from Australia to India?
No. So there is no changes of rules for traveling from Australia to India. Nobody requires any exemptions. Everybody is allowed to travel from Australia to India. Mm-hmm. And there is no restriction from going from Australia to India, because Australia is not considered a high-risk country. So India has classified some of the countries as high risk, but Australia is not classified as high risk. So even though people are going from Australia to India via Singapore or via Malaysia or via some other parts, they are not entering that country. They are just transiting that country. So the passport will be stamped in Australia as departure and will be stamped in India as arrival. So all the middle countries that through which people are transiting, those countries and the rules of those countries are not going to be considered. So I know that I saw some questions regarding Singapore, and again there is another question regarding that. So I think it's important to mention that Singapore has been classified as high risk country, but that's because anybody coming into India from Singapore who has visited Singapore. But when people are traveling from Australia to India or India to Australia, but they are not going inside Singapore, they are just transiting in the airport, then that's not considered going inside the country. There is no way anywhere it will be mentioned in anyone's passport details or any kind of travel history that anyone has visited Singapore, because you are going to just transit.
Okay.
And we have got that confirmation from Singapore Airlines as well, that just because of somebody transiting from here to India, they will not be classified as a high risk traveler.
Okay, so people can travel through Singapore Airlines, just doing transit
Correct.
without any, let's say, any issue, the travel won't be canceled, and they will be able to travel without any restriction as was before this Omicron appears. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. So basically, as long as the passenger has originated from Australia, which is not considered high risk, and they are not stopping in Singapore, in our flights, we are not having that option to stop. I don't know if others have booked other flights, then that's their basically prerogative on how they deal with it. But all our flights that are departing from Australia to India, you cannot stop in the middle, and they are traveling all the way to India.
Okay. So just to be clear, Ash, the flights that are available at the moment in the government travel website to go through Singapore, are they charter flights? Are they commercial flights? What's the status of that flight? What kind of flights do we have at the moment?
So yes, those flights are charter flights, which are happening from here to India, both on Singapore Airlines and on Malaysia Airlines. So because it's a charter flight, the normal rules, which I think some of them are referring to, whether the normal flights by Singapore Airlines, which is the scheduled flights or the commercial flights, don't apply to these charter flights. And what happens to charter flights, we know very well. We have operated more than 94 charter flights in the last 2 years, So the process of charter flights is completely different to the process of normal flights.
Okay.
And we get all the required approvals from the Australian government, from the Indian government about all the details about the charter flights, and we know how the process works. So please, my point here is, don't confuse the matter with normal flights versus charter flights. And the testimony of that is, in the last 2 years, there are no normal flights from Singapore or Malaysia Airlines operating to India. But at the same time, we operated many charter flights, and that operated totally fine.
Okay. So more or less to try to understand you, Ash, is we are talking about like that 90 charter flights that our travel had operated in the last 2 years, repatriating more than 20,000 people. Operated in conditions where there were restrictions and commercial flights weren't operating. Yeah, and now some of that rules are in place because everyone is waiting what is going to happen with the new variant. So Cabra Travel has charter flights to offer traveling between Australia and India.
Absolutely. And we had planned this 2 months in advance, because the situation is still uncertain, and 2 months advance it was pretty uncertain. So we knew that there will be a need of people who are wanting to travel from here and who are wanting to visit India. So as we are trying to always facilitate various options for our customers, we had these flights on our website, and it is still available that people want to travel to India can travel on these flights.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. What's the situation India to Australia? Since the last time that we were talking, yeah, we were announcing that international students were able to come, parents were able to come. I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the situation changed a little just because the Omicron variant, but it's not a huge change. They're still welcome, but just it's a delay in the date.
Correct. So in terms of PR and citizens and parents, there is no change at all.
Okay.
They can come now also with any flight that's coming. The only change is regarding students and also regarding any temporary residents. So those people can now only travel after 15th of December. So
Yeah.
until 1 to 15 December, uh, Australia has postponed. It was supposed to start from 1 December, now it's postponed to 15 December.
Okay, so we have some kind of questions that I think are relevant for the topic that we are discussing at the moment.
Right.
For example, Sri Bashan, on Facebook is saying something that's really interesting. So if I go to India through these chartered flights, is any possibility that Australia close the borders first? Because Sri Bashan is assuming that Australia will close the borders, but I prefer to ask you first. Is Australia likely to close the borders? And in the case that Australia close the borders, is any possibility to have inbound charter flights, like charter flights coming from India to Australia?
Okay. So, I mean, there is no limit to imagination, and there is no way that we can predict everything to the 100%. But from my understanding and from the commentary I've heard from the Prime Minister and other state ministers, New South Wales Premier and Victorian Premier, both New South Wales and Victoria are above 90% double dose. Above 90% double dose eligible population of vaccinations. So it's a really high percentage of population is vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And also, this has been going on for last 2 years. So I believe the leaders in Australia, and obviously including the Prime Minister, what I'm hearing, is they want to move forward. They don't want to move backward. And that's why they have allowed in the last month, from 1st November, that anybody who is fully vaccinated and a PR and citizens can travel out and into Australia from any part of the world, and there is no restriction, you know. And even with this new variant that has come about, there has been no change in that there has been no restriction that people cannot go and come back. They have only got this new sort of precautionary rule that you just need to have a 72 hours home quarantine. And also another thing which was very pleasing to me to see that yesterday the Queensland government, who have been very, very strict, has announced that they will open the borders for other states effective the next Monday, you know. So they have been very strict, and they are also opening their borders because they will reach by that time 80% fully vaccinated. So if you ask me, if you're asking me, and if I have to make a call, I would say that it's highly unlikely that the Australian borders will be closed again.
Okay.
They will always allow the vaccinated travelers to travel, and they may continue with this home quarantine for 3 days as a precautionary measure. Maybe they may introduce that when you come back into the country, you may need to do another test. At this point, that is not mandatory. At this point, you have to do a test before you travel, but it's not a requirement to do a test after you travel.
Okay.
So I believe these will be more rational steps that would be taken rather than completely just close the borders again. Because basically, here we are, the PM himself has announced many times from 1st of November we are opening, and then people can travel, and that's why people are traveling. And ourselves, even at Cora Travel, in the month of November itself, we've had more than 5,000 people just traveling from us, and then there are so many others. So I believe in the month of November itself, I would say probably 50,000 people have traveled or more. So if they are just going to suddenly stop the borders, and now December month has even more people traveling. So I think in the month of November and December itself, there'll be more than 100,000 travelers who would have traveled outside of Australia as a minimum. And then if they're going to just suddenly shut the borders, how are these people going to come back? And it's going to be a very difficult situation for all of these people to come back and quarantine again, and there won't be so many quarantine spaces. So I believe that the notion that Australia will be completely closed again is a little bit speculative.
Yeah.
At the moment, there is no indication from any government bodies which is hinting towards that they're going to completely shut down. Rather, it's the opposite, which is being reaffirmed again and again, that we are not going to completely shut down, and we are going to try and live with this virus. And that's the plan. The National Cabinet plan is there, that they are going to continue with that National Cabinet plan, which is to keep opening more and more their borders and start the economic activity, basically. Yeah, thank you for bringing this up, National Cabinet. So this was the last meeting that they had. And if you see, I would like to point out certain bits. If anyone wants to get the full detail, they can note down the URL pm.gov.au/media. You can put that for everybody if you
I
like.
will do it later.
Yeah, but in this statement from the media, if you see, the things which highlighted is that more than 92.4% of Australian population aged 16 years and over has had the first dose, and then 97.4% over 50 years old, and 99.9% over 70 years old. So that's really high level of vaccination. And the second one is saying 87% of Australians aged 16 years and over fully vaccinated, including more than 93.7% over 50 years old and 97.3% over 70 years of age. So the vulnerable category, which is 50 and 70, are very well covered, if you can see. So the reaction and the response from the government is going to be very much different to what it was when the first time this virus was discovered back in March 2020. Now, if we go a bit further down in regards to the Omicron variant.
So one other thing important is the cabinet is not going to do any changes before 10 of December.
Yes, so this Friday they are meeting again, and then we will know more about what their decisions are. But in the meantime, it's saying the Commonwealth and states and territories have already acted on medical advice to implement travel restriction and revised quarantine and home isolation, which is basically the 72 hours that we were talking about. And the next step that they are advising is that if you've been in any South African countries, then you will need to take 14 days quarantine, which doesn't apply to any of our travelers going to India and coming back from there.
Okay.
Then in the next paragraph, it's saying that it will require the declaration to have details about the PCR testing and all those kind of things. And the next step is talking about that they are putting a pause on those people who were allowed to come, which is the skilled and student visa, and also the anybody from Japan and Korea until 15th of December.
Okay.
And then if we go down further, there is nothing more saying that they are going to go any further, and then it says, rather, National Cabinet noted that on the basis of advice provided by Chief Medical Officer, there was no immediate need to change current settings. And if you see the last line, it is also said that basically the National Cabinet and Commonwealth and state governments will continue to pursue a suppression strategy, noting the objective is to limit the rate of Omicron incursions into Australia rather than eliminate it. So now Australia is not trying to eliminate this virus, it's just trying to contain it.
Okay.
which is very different to what it was trying to do earlier.
That was more.
And that's from the government, that's from the Prime Minister's website.
So just to be clear, in previous things like when COVID started and when the Delta appears, Australia government was trying to reach zero infections.
Correct.
But at the moment they're saying, okay, we did a plan to vaccinate everyone, protect the country, and now we are aiming to reduce the spread and everything, but they are aware that will be cases around,
Absolutely.
and that's the intention of everyone getting vaccinated. It's
Correct.
more or less.
And there has been in every day almost more than 1,000 cases every day. So
Right.
that's not stopped anything. This has been going on for last probably 2 months.
Perfect.
Yep.
So, okay. So we have DJ that wants to talk definitely about Singapore Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So you already explained Singapore, but let's dig in. How fresh is the letter that you have in there? Because DJ is saying, why I don't have in my email this letter, why I haven't been informed. How fresh is that letter that we received from Singapore Airlines?
Yeah, we have received a letter today dated 7th of December from Singapore Airlines, which confirms that all of these flights will operate as normal, and also that there is no at risk in regards to the anyone traveling from Australia to India. Now, since we received it only today, we are going to circulate this and put it on our website for everybody to be able to see it. That will happen overnight. So by tomorrow, this will be made available.
Yeah.
And another point that we want to share is that we wouldn't be doing anything, neither us nor Singapore Airlines would be doing anything which are not completely approved by the governments of Australia, governments of Singapore, and governments of India. So these are not like like just kind of a fly-by-night kind of operation that we just do something. These are like, citizens of one country traveling from one country to another. So these are not like that these operations just happen just by chance. There is a proper approvals in place and proper way that these operations happen. So it's not like, as I said, I heard some people asking the question, what if you are going to get stuck? That's obviously our responsibility. We are not going to just send somebody to be stuck in Singapore, It is not just us. Singapore Airlines is partnering with us to take these passengers from Australia to India, not just drop them in Singapore.
Yeah, that's true.
So basically, I don't know why these questions are being asked. I can understand because there are so many misinformation going on, and that's why maybe people are getting confused. But as far as we are concerned, we have operated more than 90 charter flights so far in the last 2 years, and none of our flights was operated in such an environment where people were stuck and stranded in a particular place. So there has been some delays from time to time due to operational reasons, where a flight may be delayed or there is a longer wait time either in departing Australia or in arrival of India or departing from another point in Sri Lanka or Singapore. But we have not basically had any situation so far where anybody has been left stranded anywhere.
Okay, perfect. So let's go to some comments, Ash, because we have some interesting comments today.
Yeah.
So, as India has extended travel ban, can we still transit through Singapore? Singapore Airlines has canceled all their flights for December. My flight is booked for 18th of December with you guys.
Yeah. So as I've been explaining, our flights are charter flights. So that's a different operation compared to normal scheduled flights. So the charter flights have different approval process and different system and different rules compared to a normal scheduled flights. So it's pretty sad that Singapore Airlines had to cancel all their flights, but that's because there was a change in rule from the Indian government, which actually had the stop of all flights operating there, and that's why it has been. But that's only for scheduled flights. It's not for charter flights or any kind of bubble flights. So India still has flights operating with so many other countries with whom they have an air bubble. So all the flights with Emirates, all the flights with Qatar Airways, all the flights with Qantas, all the flights with Air India, all of these are operating as normal. So it's not that India has completely shut off their border and not operating any flights, but they don't operate flights with certain countries based on their own decisions, which don't have a bubble agreement with them. So again, saying that our flights are charter flights, and we are going to operate those charter flights, uh, and uh, and as I said, it's confirmed.
Yeah.
Basically.
So there is another things that are interesting and important to clarify, Ash. For example, Krishna, and I want to make a point here. Krishna is saying, I called Singapore Airlines today, and they said India will not let you enter if your flight has stayed in Singapore. So it's important to know the difference between the Gaura travel charter flights operated by Singapore Airlines and calling to the contact center in Singapore, because what's the difference in there? Are not that the contact center at Singapore Airlines connected with these charter flights? What's the difference when Krishna called and she cannot get the proper answer?
Yeah, look, charter flights are a specialist operation, as I've been telling you again and again. So calling Singapore Airlines contact center, they will be able to give you only generic information for their flights. They won't be able to give any information for charter flights. So for charter flights, we are the organizer. If you need any clarification, you can call us and we will give you that information.
Exactly. What's the situation then with Malaysian Airlines? Because Ish is saying, I spoke to Malaysian Airlines yesterday, and they advised that they suspended the flight until the end of December. The flight we booked through Gaura Travels is Malaysian Airlines. Can you please advise what will happen to our tickets?
So it's again, the flight that we have with Malaysia Airlines is a charter flight, and it will still operate as charter flights. There is no relation between those and the scheduled flights. So these charter flights with Singapore and Malaysia Airlines is going to go ahead as normal.
Okay. So, Nakma, what is the condition at Delhi Airport?
So yeah, what I found that basically the situation in Delhi Airport is a little bit more crowded than it was, but at the same time, they are trying to improve the situation. And those who are coming from high-risk countries, and none of you would be in that category because you are traveling from Australia, as I just explained before. But those who are traveling from high-risk countries, they need to get tested again when they reach Delhi Airport. And if their test is negative, then they can travel inside India, no problems at all. If their test is positive, then they will need to stay in a government facilitated quarantine facility. But this is only for high-risk travelers who are coming from the high-risk countries. So as I said, those who are traveling from Australia, they are not going to be subjected to this because Australia is not a high-risk country.
Perfect. So similar situation happened with Singapore is Malaysian Airlines. It's like there's also a stop there, but no putting a stamp in your passport so you can do the transit.
Correct. That is correct.
In charter flights.
Correct.
Not
Yes.
in commercial flights.
Yes.
Okay. So Ash, I know you mentioned this, but we are going through the questions. So is the letter be available at any point for the customers that book those?
Yes, we will make that available by tomorrow.
Perfect.
So we will be uploading that to our website so that anybody can look into that.
Perfect. Uh, why you guys are not permitting cancellations and processing refunds? If the person feels insecure, concerned with the current restrictions and not clear guidelines on travel back and forth.
Look, every booking that people make on our website, all our terms and conditions are very clear. So some of the products, some of the flights allow cancellations, which we also specifically mention before you book. And some of our flights doesn't allow cancellations. Although if we cancel any flight, we provide a refund. But if a passenger wants to cancel on certain flights which are non-refundable, then you will not get any refund. So especially with charter services, it's a whole flight that we actually charter from the airline. So we can't allow cancellations on that because basically people once they book, then we can't give it to anybody else, and that as such we can't have cancellations or refunds on that. Before close to the travel, we always give an option. Suppose if people book a ticket and if they don't confirm, they can just book a ticket with a 5% deposit.
Mhm.
But they can choose not to go ahead with that if they don't want to. They can think over it for a day or two, and if they don't want to, they don't need to go through it. But once they go through it, then especially with charter flights, it's no way that we can actually facilitate a refund, because if the flights are operating, then the person is very much okay to travel. So that's the reason for those flights we are unable to, and that's what's happened in the whole last 2 years with all charter flights. Basically, the charter flights are non-refundable, and that's the same thing that we have with the airline. Once we actually contract for the charter flight, it has to go through. We can't just cancel it.
Perfect. Are charter flight rules differ to what on website as I am unable to see rule for Singapore transit and not go for post-arrival test at airport? I totally don't understand the question.
Yeah,
but I
me,
will
me
try.
neither. Me neither.
Yeah, H because it doesn't have a name. If you can rewrite your question, please, Hardik. We will be happy to answer. I have booked my parents' ticket with Gaura Travel Singapore Airlines via Singapore for January 5th. Do you think those flights will be allowed to transit through Singapore?
Yes, because again, we are going to have charter flights from Delhi to Singapore and then further. So it's not normal flights that we are planning to operate.
Okay. So, Rama, I have booked myself for return ticket with Gaura Travel, Singapore Airlines via Singapore to Sydney from India for January 5th. Do you think those flights will be allowed to transit through Singapore?
Yeah, as I said that it's a charter flight, so it will be operating as normal.
Okay, perfect. So, it's not a question. We are talking Singapore, Malaysian Airlines, and who will be liable if I get stuck at Singapore airport and they didn't let me board my connection flight to India? It's not something that should happen, or
You will get a boarding pass all the way to India from here only, just like anybody traveling from here. So you will get a boarding pass from Melbourne to Singapore and Singapore to Delhi in Melbourne itself.
yeah, something that
And your luggage will be checked in all the way to India from here itself.
something that is really important to clarify. You are not entering as a person in Singapore. You are just going into the airport. You are not leaving the airport. You are not
Correct.
doing migration in Singapore.
Correct.
So that's the reason why they are not going to say you cannot go to your country because you are just in the waiting area.
Correct.
Just to board the transit
Correct.
flight. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Perfect. What about Malaysian Airlines? I had booked mine on 25 from India to Melbourne. Anything that I should know?
No, there is nothing to know on that. It's the same thing. There may be a slight change on that flight, and we are going to offer those customers the flight for 22nd because of all these changes on flights. So that particular flight, we have requested Malaysia Airlines to provide us with a bigger aircraft on the 22nd. And I think we will contact those customers on 25th and give them the option to come on 22nd, which is even earlier.
Okay. Can these approved flights has chance of getting canceled?
Look, in terms of any kind of operational issue, which is beyond my control or beyond anybody's control, in terms of if there is any technical issues on the aircraft, that nobody can predict. But so far, we haven't seen any of that. But apart from that, we don't see a problem on any of these flights. It's all confirmed, and Airlines is confirmed, and it's going through the process of getting the government approvals as we speak right now. Because those approvals take a lot of time, and it doesn't happen 3 months before the flight departure. It happens closer to the flight departure.
Yeah.
And as we have done this over 90 times, we know what we're doing, and it's going through those approval process as we speak.
Okay. So there's something here that is really important that I want to clarify with you, and I have the opportunity that we have you today, because I know there is some kind of misunderstanding with some tickets, and I can see clearly there's many people asking the same question. So I'm gonna make one-time question here, give you the opportunity to clarify this through the question of MB. MB is saying, I booked my tickets with Singapore Airlines for 24th of December. What is the reason behind issuing tickets 12 hours prior to travel? It does make me nervous. What if I don't get on that flight, if the flight's overbooked by you? My ticket is with Gaura confirmed. So why people is receiving the tickets 12 hours prior to the travel? Can you give us a light in this, because it's a recurring question today?
Absolutely. So I think 12 hours is the maximum time that is within that 12 hours. Of course, everybody would like that. But we try, and for different flights, it is different. We try up to 48 hours before the travel. We try to provide those tickets. Now, I guess we need to understand what is the purpose of the ticket first. Okay. So the purpose of the ticket is only to show at the airport when traveling. Okay. And basically, we are doing that before you travel. Now, in terms of your confirmation of that flight, as soon as you book, you get an email from us saying this is a confirmed flight, and you get that confirmation from us. Now, the reason why we cannot issue that traveling ticket immediately is because when it comes to charter flights, all the passengers are ticketed at the same time. So when all the people are booked on that flight, which is around 300, which usually comes to a closure, 2 or 3 days before the flight is supposed to depart, that's when all the tickets gets issued, and that's when we share it out with everybody. On a normal scheduled flight, that is not the process. On a normal scheduled flight, each time a person makes a booking, they can make a booking 1 year before travel, and we just issue that ticket and email it to them. So that's the process of a normal scheduled flight, because each passenger is booked at one time. So the way you can understand, it's like a group, because basically, I'm sure many of you have this experience where you've gone to some place in a group. So everything happens together. So it's like if you're traveling in a bus, in a group, you are traveling all together and everybody is going together. So in this kind of situation in the charter flight, everybody is starting in the same place from point A and going to the same place in point B. On the other circumstances, when there are normal flights operating, many people will be sitting from Melbourne and then change in Singapore and then go to London or they go to Paris or they go to Delhi or they go to Mumbai or they go to Chennai. So they are free to travel wherever there are flights. Or some people even just go from here to Singapore and stop in Singapore for 1 week and then travel further, or they don't even go further. They just go to here to Singapore and come back. So when it's a normal scheduled flights, everybody has a different itinerary and everybody is doing their own thing because they are allowed to do that and they are free to do that because it's a normal scheduled flight. And hence, that's where every single ticket is issued independently and it is not dependent on everybody else's itinerary or everybody else's tickets. On the other hand, when it's a charter operation, every single person, and that's why we cannot offer this flight from here to Singapore to Delhi and have half the people going to Delhi and half the people going to Chennai. It is not possible. Everybody has to go from point A to point B at the same time. And that's why we offer domestic connections from Delhi, different flights we are offering to different cities, those who want to travel further domestically. So that's the only reason. Otherwise, for us, and it's not us that's putting this process in place, that's the process of the airlines. Otherwise, what is it there for us? I mean, many a times, as you said, people are waiting and we are getting these questions and emails or phone calls. It will be rather less work for us to just issue the ticket immediately and give it. We used to do that and we still do that for commercial flights. So it's not something that we are not used to. We have been doing that for 14 years now. We have operated this business for a long time. And every year there are thousands of travelers who are traveling with us. And when they are booking a normal scheduled flight, commercial flight, that's the process that is there, where everybody gets the ticket within, after booking, maybe they make the payment after 1 or 2 days, and then after that, they get it in 1 or 2 days. So that's how it works in terms of the normal scheduled flight. But in terms of charter flights, the process is completely different. And every process in charter flight is completely different. Although you are traveling and it seems to a customer it's the same, because you are just going to the airport as normally you go and you're checking in the luggage as normally you do, and then you're getting the boarding pass, and then you are sitting in the aircraft, and then you're reaching to your destination. So for the customer, it seems that it's exactly the same, but behind the scenes is completely operating in a different way. For example, if basically in this situation in a charter operation, the airlines would take our permission in terms of who is allowed to board that flight and who is not. On the other scheduled flight, they don't need our permission. They will say who will go and who will not go based on the tickets that is issued. So actually, in this regard, I mean, it's just a formality to issue the ticket. If we give a list to the airlines and say these are all the people who should be going on this, they won't even check the tickets. Okay. They will allow those passengers to travel. If we just give them an Excel sheet and say these are all the people who should be going on this flight, they will do that.
Okay, so that first email, in first instance, should be enough.
In terms of confirmation, yes. And I would like to also highlight this point that people are asking and again. E-ticket is not necessarily a guarantee to travel, even in the normal circumstances, and COVID has shown it to all of us, that people may have a copy of e-ticket. It doesn't mean that that flight is going to operate in normal circumstances as well. We have seen it time and time again, where so many people booked for so many flights before COVID, and then the borders shut and all the flights got cancelled, and that ticket is of no value. So people think that having a ticket means that they are sure to travel, but that's not necessarily the case. As I just explained. No. Even right now, I think many people may have booked on some scheduled flights with Singapore or Malaysia Airlines, but that didn't really assure them the travel and the flight got cancelled, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the e-ticket itself,
You are talking about the commercial ones.
the commercial ones, yes, yes.
So to be clear.
Yeah, so commercial ones. So what I'm trying to say, yes, e-ticket is important before traveling. You need that as a proof to enter certain airports, for example. Yeah, you need that as a proof. Many people were traveling with us during lockdowns. So they needed that as a proof that they are traveling and not to go out of their house. So I think it's a very important document that everybody needs just before they are traveling. And that's what we are trying, we definitely provide that before they are traveling. But how much purpose it serves to a person for getting that before 1 month, 2 months, 3 months is everybody's can guess and comment on that. It's not something that they use 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in advance. And frankly speaking, if we could, we would provide that immediately, you know.
Yeah.
But as I just explained, the whole charter operations work as a group. So everybody is ticketed at the same time. You know?
Okay.
So that's why it has to wait.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. So I know there was many people asking for the why I get my ticket 12 hours prior or until 12 hours prior to the departure date. Thank you for that clarification. It's really important for our customers to know this. Bahar, do we have to do a PCR test at Delhi going from Australia? Does child have to do it as they are not vaccinated?
So you have to do a PCR test before leaving Australia. That's a compulsory step for every single traveler who is going into India and also coming to Australia. And you have to upload the results of that on the Air Suvidha website. However, as you are traveling from Australia to India, and Australia being not at risk country, you don't have to do that PCR test once you arrive in India. That's not compulsory.
Okay.
Whether it's adult or a child.
Okay. There is here asked an important question regarding operations of our flights. It's not the flight itself, the process. I paid the full ticket amount, but made a mistake with reference number. Have been following up since Friday, but the website still says immediate payment required. How is this treated? Do I have tickets blocked until the issue is fixed, or it's still open? I'm concerned since I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point. If you can ask him to this passenger to email on customer care at goratravel.com.au and mention the actual order number and exactly what reference they have given. Actually, it should better be emailed on payments at goratravel.com.au. And then if you can explain the exact order number and what the reference that he has quoted, then we will get it fixed. No problem.
Okay. So, Manas, I send you the...
He said he has done it. So if you can take his order number, then we can look into that.
Perfect. Just to confirm, the ticket that I booked with Gora Travel is charter flight, only not commercial. How do I know which one mine is?
Yeah, so that's a good point, and we don't necessarily have provided the details of that. We'll take that feedback and try to give that clarity, you know. But if you want to really check, then I guess if you book a flight with us and if you go and check on the airline website, if that flight is not showing, that means it's a charter flight.
Okay.
And if it is showing on that airline website, then it's a normal scheduled flight. But at the moment, for December month, all these flights on Singapore Airlines and Malaysia Airlines, as we just spoke, there are no scheduled flights at all.
Okay.
So all are charter flights.
Perfect. So, is charter flights ever canceled in the past for whatever reason?
Absolutely. If tomorrow the government of Australia or India changes any rules, that everybody has to abide by, If that is their prerogative, we cannot predict what they will change, So it's basically it has not been cancelled due to us wanting to cancel.
Mhm.
It has not been cancelled due to the airlines because they have plenty of spare aircrafts. They can swap a plane if required, if there is any issue. But if there are flights that has cancelled with us in the past, it is mainly and only due to the government change of rules,
Okay.
which nobody has control over. We just have to abide by it.
Okay, guys. The same question is like, when did customers receive notification about the cancellation in the case that happened?
As soon as we know, we need to notify the customers. And that could be sometimes 1 month before travel, sometimes could be 10 days, sometimes could be 1 week, sometimes could be even less than that.
Yeah. Did you provide full refund in that case?
That is correct. So if it's a flight that we cannot operate for whatever reasons, whether it is like our fault or airlines or government change any rules, then we do provide full refund.
Okay. Why on your website in FAQs, you mentioned that these flights are commercial flight and not charter. You are just facilitating the flights?
I think, look, during the year we have done a combination of both. So probably that needs to be updated.
Mhm.
So we have had facilitated commercial flights and also charter flights. So we've done a combination of both. So we should try and update that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Rama is also asking how they know the difference between charter and commercial. I think you just explained it. When you say charter flight booking, does that mean source to target destination is charter flight? I don't understand.
That is correct.
Yep.
So he's saying the flight all the way from here to Singapore and Singapore Delhi are charter. The answer is yes.
Okay.
They don't allow mixing half charter and half commercial.
Okay.
So it is charter all the way through.
Okay. I have booked a flight with you guys 26th of December from Sydney to Hyderabad.
Okay. Is that on which airline? I don't know.
We don't know, Rama, if you can tell us, because basically the charters are Malaysian Airlines and
Singapore
Airlines.
Yep.
Let me check. Are travelers allowed to roam at Singapore airport while transit?
No, they won't be allowed to. So they will be just allowed to deboard the aircraft just to stretch their legs and have a bit of a relaxation. But they will be kept in the same one area, and then you will be boarded back.
Okay. January 5th of 5th of January, Malaysian Airlines. Is that a charter flight or is commercial?
Charter.
Charter. Okay. We have more questions here. So give me a sec. Because we have okay, we already answered the final tickets. Question from Nettie. Check. Then I got travel exemption. Can I travel? These people still needing travel exemptions?
For outbound, no.
Okay.
Nobody from outbound require any travel exemption. If inbound, if you are not Australian citizens or PR or parents, you may need an exemption until 15th of December.
Okay.
But after 15th December, I think it's allowed for everybody.
So that means if they have an exemption and the trial is before 15th of December, Praveen can travel.
Yes,
And after that, it depends on the visa status.
correct,
You can
yes,
travel and not require the sections.
correct, yes.
E-tickets, so we already explained that one. Give me a second. Okay. Recently, one of the neighbors of Bashan traveled to Chennai from Melbourne to Singapore, and she has to get PCR test and isolate 7 days at home.
For Chennai,
Yeah, to Chennai.
okay. After arrival,
7 days at home. Yeah, but we don't have the date of arrival.
okay.
There's something that
Well,
could happen that is a case. Or...
well, I'm not aware of what the rules are for Chennai,
Okay.
but for Delhi, that's not the case.
Okay.
Firstly, and I don't know what was that person visiting Singapore and doing something in Singapore or not. All those details are not known. Because as far as somebody is traveling all the way from here to India, then that shouldn't matter.
Okay.
What I can also mention is maybe in the beginning 1 or 2 days, because this rules only came into place on 1st of December.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there was a bit of confusion,
Okay.
and that may have led to that. But now it's all clear. Because we also could not have that clarity from the Singapore Airlines until today, because they were trying to clarify this matter with the government of India. And now they have confirmed us after they've got the confirmation themselves.
Perfect. I had flight on 10th with Gaura Travels.
Mm-hmm.
In case the RT-PCR test is delayed before my travel, can I fill the Air Subida form at the airport?
Yes, you can.
Okay. We already specified the tickets. I will board on 14th of December from India and arrive on 15th in Sydney. Am I able to travel on 14th? I imagine
Depend on your visa.
MB don't have essential and has visa. So traveling on 14 but arriving on 15 is a law, or 14 they will say, oh, they check the visa in India?
Depends on because the last time Australian government had a ban in May, when it was banned till, I think, again, it was something to do with 14th or 15th of May. But on that day, there was a flight arriving. So the flight started from India a day before.
Okay.
And then on that day, the flight arrived into Australia. So if that same rule applies now, that means they will be allowed to travel.
Okay.
But I think more clarity will come on this in the next couple of days.
Okay. As per the new guidelines, no form of transit is allowed by Singapore for travelers to India. We already explained that.
Mm-hmm.
Singapore already explained. Can we transit to Singapore? Already explained. Let me check. Dun, dun. For charter flights to Singapore, are we expected to get down into the airport and transit to another flight, or do we stay in the flight?
It's the same flight which goes further, but I think they just deboard you just to clean up and again board you back onto that flight. Yeah.
Are Malaysian airline charter flights quarantine free?
Yeah, quarantine free.
What about flights from India to Australia via Singapore Airlines? Are they operating? What is the situation with that one?
So normal scheduled flights are not operating, but we have some charter flights. Same thing, that the flight is coming and bringing passengers and taking from here passengers to India. So there's a both-way charter operation that's going on.
Okay. We heard from Indian government that we need to go through PCR tests, regardless of the country where you come from once you land in Delhi. Please clarify.
No, that is not correct. Because every day there are thousands and thousands of people coming from so many countries into India. If they have to test every single person, there is no way that they will be able to do that.
Okay.
There is air bubbles with 31 countries all around the world.
And that's the reason why you do the test in Australia before
Correct.
traveling.
That's correct.
Charter flights at Singapore, do we need to stay in flight or change terminal at changing? It's basically the same question that you already explained, that it's just to clean the
Yes, so
airplane.
you're not going from one terminal to another. It's the same aircraft which goes forward. You're just deboarded for a short period of time, just to stretch a little bit and then get the aircraft clean, and then you go back in.
Yeah. Do kids under 5 years of age need to get RT-PCR done from Melbourne to Delhi?
No, it's not compulsory. It's optional.
Yeah, okay. We have a transit of 1 hour only at Singapore airport. Will it be enough to board the connection flight from Singapore to India?
Yeah, that's why it's very short, because it's a charter operation. You're not going from one terminal to another.
Okay.
So you're just boarding the same flight moving on.
Any changes to flight from Delhi to Melbourne via Singapore Airlines on 23rd of December?
Can you repeat that?
Any changes to flight from Delhi to Melbourne via Singapore Airlines on 23rd of December?
Yes, I think I've received that there is, the flight schedule has changed slightly and it will start from there a bit earlier than it was supposed to. But all that will get updated on our website tomorrow.
Okay.
But otherwise, there is no changes.
Okay. So I have booked a ticket with you guys. It's from Sydney to Hyderabad, Qantas Airways, 27th of December 2021. From Sydney to Hyderabad. Is this direct flight? Is this charter flight?
No, with Qantas, we don't have any charter flight. So it is a flight which is going from Sydney to Delhi on Qantas commercial flight. And then we're giving you a connecting flight from Delhi to Hyderabad.
So the question is still operating this flight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long.
Okay. When can skilled workers enter to Australia, such as 491 visa holders?
Well, as per the current rule, from 15th of December.
Perfect. My parents are coming on 16th of December. Is that anything changes?
As of now, that's all supposed to go ahead, and that's why we have our flights from 16th.
What if my flight gets cancelled at the last moment? Will Gaura Travel arrange for an alternative flight without asking for refunds?
To best our capability, we try to do that most of the time. It may not be on the same day, it may be 1 or 2 days apart. And if that's not suitable, then we provide a full refund.
Okay. Will there be anyone from Gaura present at the airport while boarding from Melbourne and during transit in Singapore?
We will have someone in Melbourne, but obviously we won't be able to have somebody in Singapore. We don't have any branch there.
And it's just 1 hour, leave the airplane and go back to the airplane?
Correct.
Arrive back to India?
Correct, that's correct.
When we book our flight tickets, no one told us it was charter flights, and in the confirmation email I received, it clearly said that we can change the ticket 7 days prior to the flight. But now you guys are sending us an email saying it cannot be changed. Can you clarify please that? We need to know the flight or?
Yeah, and the order numbers and all that. We can cross-check that. But as far as I understand, it could be a mistake or something. Generally, all the charter flights are non-changeable.
Yeah. So up in there, if you send us your order number, we can try to help you. Eh, your explanation is really helping. Otherwise, I was really confusing and worrying from your point of view. Thanks for the clarification, Ash.
Oh, thank you.
Sayantan, that's really nice from you. Thank you. Do you let me check. It's the 16th of December flight is charter flight. As well, my parents need to do COVID safe check in Delhi and Singapore.
So there is no check that happens in Singapore because you are coming straight from there and not going inside the country. Yes, there will be a requirement to produce the RT-PCR test in Delhi before boarding the flight. But that could be done from anywhere. It could be done in the airport or from any other labs as well.
Okay. It's 19th of December, Singapore Airlines, a charter flight.
Yes.
Give me a second.
I think we might need to wrap up soon as well. Right?
Yeah. Thank you for asking all queries. Can you please give more info on travel from India to Melbourne and specifically local traveling from Ahmedabad to Delhi? Anything we need to know?
So yeah, internally in India now everything is operational, everything is open, so you can travel internally. There is no issues there. And then from India to Australia, we have flights on our website in the month of December, January, February. All of these flights are available, and you can book any of those and travel.
Okay. Let me check. Services like meal and seat preference, wheelchair assistance available for Singapore charter flights?
Absolutely. So full meal will be available, and you can request for wheelchair. If you haven't done while booking, you can send us an email with a proper reason why you need the wheelchair. I think they need a form to be filled. In terms of a specific seat selection, there is no system like that in charter flights beforehand. But when you go to the airport, you can request and they usually try to accommodate.
Okay. This person, Rajesh, is also asking if that special services has to be booked through Singapore Airlines customer support or
No,
or-
it's through Goa Travel.
Okay. I have booked a ticket from Laura Travel Delhi Sydney for 5th of January, having a layover at Singapore. But do I know if I have a charter flight?
Well, in one sense, you don't need to know because it's a flight. But I guess we are trying to explain all this to make it more clear as to why our flights will be operating. And obviously, we take it very seriously. I mean, we are here for the last 14 years doing this, and in the last 2 years, we have operated more than 90 charter flights. So we would be the last one who will try to book a flight and not operate it. It doesn't really bring us any joy, nor does it bring us any convenience or anything to all our customers. We are in the business of trying to reunite families from point A to point B. So we are going to try and do that as much as possible. Having said that, there are circumstances when there are changes or cancellations, just like any other airline, So there are changes and cancellations which happens from time to time, and that we try to accommodate and do our best to give alternatives. So I think these are little technical points, and it's not always possible to put that because each and every flight. We will take this feedback and work out with our team on how we can specify with each and every flight, whether it's a charter or whether it's a normal flight. We'll try and see if we can do that. But normally, whatever we are offering on our website, we try to make sure that all of those flights are operating.
Yeah.
So there is actually no need for anybody to worry in that sense.
Perfect. I had booked a flight with you guys from Delhi to Melbourne. While making the booking, I was on 489 visa So my documents uploaded while booking were that of temporary visa holder. However, I now appear and share the documents at customercare.garatravel.com. Is that com.au?
Yes.
Is that com.au Akanchanka? Will this have an impact on my e-ticket? I hope my updated documents are taken into consideration while issuing the ticket.
So ticket doesn't check anything in terms of documentation. It just issues the ticket based on your booking. If you have a new visa, which is a permanent resident, you just travel with that, and there's no problem with that. So that is checked at the time of boarding. So you just show them the new document that you have, which is a permanent resident.
Okay. Thanks for the session. I have booked for 18 India to Melbourne, Singapore Airlines through Gaura. Let's hope for the best.
Yes, let's hope for the best. Not
Thank
to
you,
worry.
Rija. Thank you, Rija. I really hope you have a really nice experience with us. How do we book wheelchair for parents?
It gives you the option while booking. Otherwise, you can just email and customer care, and they will take care of it.
Okay, it's 22nd December, Malaysian Airlines, a chartered flight. Is this flight going to be affected? Give me a second because this change it quickly. Is this charter going to be affected by the recent announcement by Indian government to pause international flights operating in India for 15th of December on hold?
No, this is a charter flight, so this won't be affected by those announcements.
Okay, so Rajesh said, thanks for all these clarifications. We are all concerned as most of our parents are traveling through these uncertain times. I wish there is also some flexibility date changes between your charter flights. I tried, but it was not accommodated.
We'll take that feedback on and we'll try and see what we can do and see what we can do. But we, in the meantime, request to be patient, and we are trying our best to do whatever we can to the best of our capability.
Okay, same. I'm Australian citizen, booked a return ticket with you guys. I'm just visiting to India to meet my parents for a week time. Is there any quarantine requirement? Then there is not much point with current restriction. Do you provide refund? Does this person has to do quarantine?
In India?
Yeah.
No quarantine. I mean, basically, as I said, from Australia to India, Australia is not in high risk, so you don't have to go and get tested again. And because of that, as long as before traveling you are PCR test negative, then you can travel and then you can go inside India without a problem.
Exactly. Okay. Ash, we have covered all the questions that we have for today. I think I would like to do some kind of summary of the session today. Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, the first one that I want to summarize with you is Omicron. At this point, we don't know what happened tomorrow because it's a changing situation. But at this point, it doesn't affect much the travel between Australia and India. Some flights is due to the restrictions in India has been changed, commercial flights, but the things that we have at the website at the moment are charter flights.
Correct.
Yeah. First, let's say conclusion of this day. Second conclusion, e-tickets that are issued up to 12 hours prior the departure time, basically because they're traveling in a group and the tickets are issued in groups.
Correct.
Yeah. And the other one is people will be allowed to travel as international students and skill visas from 15th of December. Another conclusion, the National Cabinet has not changed many rules in Australia apart from the delaying the entrance of international students and work skill visas up to 15th of December.
Correct.
Any other final comment that you would like to make?
Yes, final comments is that obviously at Cora Travel, we take all of these things very seriously. We have reunited more than 20,000 families in the last 2 years. And we know this whole process, how it works. So please be rest assured, we'll do our best and we'll take care of everything, hopefully more than their expectation.
Okay. Thank you to all of you. A final answer, because we are leaving today. We have been for more than 1 hour, really productive session, Ash. 17th of December, Melbourne to Hyderabad flight. Doesn't mention the airline, but if it's Singapore Airlines, it's charter flight.
Correct.
Exactly. Thanks a lot.
Up to Delhi is charter.
Okay.
It's a domestic flight.
Thanks a lot, guys, for your clarifications. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Namita.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time answering the questions. Let's hope for the best, and rest assured you guys will help customers to your best.
Thank you.
Thank you also, Raman.
Thank you.
Malaysian Airlines flights, let me check the time of this one, 5th of January charter flight.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will have, Ash, a final thing. We'll have tomorrow, when you are putting the Singapore Airlines letter, we will have a page tomorrow on our website specifying which one are the charter flights. So this also will be easier to identify
Correct.
those.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you go to the website tomorrow, we will have a page specifying which one are charter flights, so you will be more informed about this. It's a promise from both of us to you that tomorrow we will have that on the website. See you until the next session. Please travel safe. At the moment, there is nothing to worry about the Omicron. Remember, we are issuing tickets up to 12 hours prior, just because there are group tickets. And see you. If you have more questions, please email us to Gaura Customer Care at gauratravel.com.au.
Yes. That's right.
Customer care at gauratravel.com.au. And we will be happy to answer more of your questions, or until the next session that we are doing every week or fortnightly. Depends of when we have news to tell you. Thank you very much for being connected with us, for your participation. That was really active. I'm really happy today because we have really active people asking important questions. And see you next time. See you, Ash.
Thank you. Thanks very much.